Okay, so we'll just call this meeting officially started. 5:06. Yay. All right, so shall we okay.
How do I get rid of this thing here?
That little arrow to the right, I think.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
My computer just attacked me like that too, so I just figured that out. I think it's like a new update. I really it just happened to be.
Like, go away.
Did we couldn't find the plan. So we made it through the use of therapy dogs in the district, did we not, or did we not? 'Cause I can't remember.
I think we got through some of it. We didn't get through all the attachments though, but we were just gonna kind of finalize it. But where is your draft? Oh, is it down here? No.
The therapy dog thing?
Yeah.
Well, if you click on the 2585,
Oh,
that actually has the reds and the...
That's your draft.
Yeah.
Okay. It just doesn't say draft. Okay. And this is the one, oh yeah, because remember we got through all of this and then we lost it all. And then we had to spend, so we did get through all of this.
Okay.
Did we end up finding what we lost?
Yeah.
Okay,
It
good.
took us about an hour.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Awesome.
Remember because, so we downloaded it, I guess, in Word instead of Google, and then there's
Correct.
those little markers on that tab, and
Yeah.
I couldn't get rid of them, so I tried to erase them, so then I erased something, and then Michelle played with it, and she erased something, so then we're making all these copies, and so I think we ended up having to go back and literally, some of it was saved, but not all of it, so we were
Right.
here for another hour trying to fix our...
Put that bad boy back in its place.
So, but the reason why, because remember we were done with this, now I'm thinking my brain's working now. We were at the point where we were ready to take it to parent
Okay.
feedback, but we didn't have 2585F done, and there was one other reference policy that the service animals in schools, we didn't have done either. Or the 2580.
Okay.
So we felt like some of the references weren't done, and so we
Right.
wanted all of it done, so we tabled it to get all
Okay.
the rest of it done. So if we want to just look this over one more time, then we can move to the form, and then 2375, and then 2580.
2375?
We have service animals in school. It's 2580 that we don't have.
Okay. Right.
And then we added this one. It's the 2580P, the district procedure on dissection, that we were a little bit grossed out with.
Well, it says, 2585P is therapy dog plan. Rosanna couldn't find this.
It's not an ISBA, you know.
So was there
I don't remember anything about a plan.
I don't either.
I just remember we had 2585. We referenced the student permission form for exposure to animals, to dogs specifically. That's what we have on here. And then we needed to get 2580, which is the use of animals in educational programs. So if we did that, we would have service dog, we would have the therapy dog, and then the use of animals, because you liked that copy from ISBA.
Right. Well, it looks like 2585F is the therapy dog plan. Okay.
So they just, and so it is a plan instead of, and we named it a form, so it's the same.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a permission.
It looks like a form.
Yeah.
At the very bottom, it says that there are signatures. It says approved or rejected.
Right. So it's a plan. So it should be,
The student shall not schedule attendance with a therapy student or have contact with the therapist without a completed form student permission for exposure. So do we just need to create one?
what are you?
I'm looking at the actual policy.
Okay.
So at the very bottom right here,
Mm-hmm.
we said, so we just named it the same thing. So
Oh,
we'll have
okay.
to change that.
Okay, and we have, okay.
Because that's different than the plan. So we needed a form, a permission slip.
Okay,
That's where
so,
we're getting confused. We named them the same thing.
okay. So then, this 2585. Hello. F.
Here, take mine. You can have mine. Oh, there's an extra one over there.
Yeah. So 2585F came from ISBA, is that
Mhm.
correct? Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So if we're gonna use that and call it the plan, then we'll just call the student permission form something else, or F1, F2 kind of thing.
Well, I think it should be P for plan, because it is a plan.
Okay.
And then I think the F should be the form, and it should just simply be,
The
you know,
permission.
my child is allowed to participate, my child is
Mhm.
not. I mean, check the box. It's
Right.
an opt-in and
Super
opt-out.
simple.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
And we could probably pull that,
So on our, Rosanna, on our, where it says permission form, I'm just gonna name that, I'm gonna change that F to a P. Okay. And then in our policy, we have 2585F, and that's the permission.
do they all have the policy? 2585?
Let's
Because everybody's looking at a green form and I'm looking at the computer.
Me too.
I'm looking at that computer.
Okay.
That's all I got.
No, I printed all the other ones, not that one.
Here, we're gonna sit together and look at it.
Okay.
Which
Yeah,
one's
it's-
on my phone?
Okay.
Yeah, which one are we looking at?
Well, I don't know yet.
Oh.
I
Okay.
just was like, wait a minute, everybody's looking at a green form and.
So 2585, the actual policy, that's the one we did last time. And so in here, the only policy that's referenced,
So you guys approved that policy then, or?
we have, like, this is just a draft that we'll send out for parent input and all of that. This is just a draft. And Rosanna, on that draft, on this form, will you just put draft?
Sure.
So the very last sentence says, a student shall not schedule or attend a session with a therapy dog, and the student shall not have contact with a therapy dog without a completed form. So we need to make that, and then I'll link it in, so when we send it out, parents can see everything. Does that make sense? And then before we send this out, well, we're gonna wanna fix this one too. Michelle, in the 2585 draft, do you want me to then link in the plan to 2585 P?
Yes,
Okay.
because we referenced 2585P in here, correct?
No, we
We
just.
don't.
I can't find it if we do. It just says F. It's the permission slip. Let me just double check.
Oh, okay. Well, if we don't reference it, then it doesn't need to be cross-referenced.
You don't want it at the very bottom?
Well, no, I listed 2585F, student permission form.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean? Oh, I need this. Sign me up.
I'm saying the plan. Do you want the plan to be included at the bottom of this?
I don't know that it needs to
Okay.
be because there's nowhere in the policy
Right,
that
it doesn't address it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because the only ones it lists is it says 2580, which we have.
Do you have a copy of this?
Which one?
The 25?
85?
Yeah.
I'm
She's
checking it on my
pulling it up.
phone, and I think Rosanna just.
Okay. Because I was gonna say I have little to no expertise or input on this topic,
She
so
has
if
a
you want to
lot
come
of
over here and look
expertise.
at it,
Yeah.
we can switch places.
Do you want to
can
come
slide
sit
over
by
here.
me?
I can slide over.
Can you see? We went old school and started making copies because it just helps.
Yeah.
What was your name again?
I'm Dave.
Dave. Nate. I know we've met once before, but
Yes.
I'm just curious, have we done anything in the policy that deals with the dog being, or the handler being a member of the school, you know, the district or the district employee?
For therapy dogs?
I mean, is this the therapy dog or is this the facility therapy dog that
Wait a
you're
minute.
That's
talking
the
about?
facility.
What? Okay.
We just talked about the handler.
Oh, I'm looking at stakeholder. Okay, there's too many drafts in the 2585 because I pulled up stakeholder draft, which got created somehow, and it's not the same one that's up there for draft. So I don't know why the stakeholder got created.
Did
okay.
you make it thinking we were gonna send it out, Rosanna?
Yes, I started to.
Okay.
Okay, so then,
I'm sorry, I think I just kicked your leg.
That's fine.
that down.
I didn't want you to think I'm playing footsies.
No.
What is it? Okay, let me see where it says.
I think though, because I'm going in a completely different direction than you are, it says therapy dog plan. So it says district staff who wish to have therapy dogs made available to students shall submit a plan to the building principal, and then we can put through or using 2585P therapy dog plan, and then link that in there.
Okay. Are you gonna add that in?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, I'm gonna change it on here to say P, so it's not F.
Okay, that's fine.
Can I take off where it says ISBA 2021?
Yeah.
How often are the dogs gonna be, and the handler gonna be evaluated?
It says it in there. Oh, it just kicked me out. Sorry, it
Who's
just
that
kicked me
you?
out. I think we said, did we say annually?
I think it was annually.
Yeah. Be approved. Yeah, the plan has to be resubmitted each year. Anytime.
What about the animal itself, or the handlers themselves?
Okay, well, a hand,
Certification.
okay, let's just read through the policy. The district recognizes that specially trained therapy dogs can provide educational and other benefits for district students and may allow such dogs to be used in schools in accordance with this policy and with policy 2580, use of animals in education, or in educational programs. A therapy dog is a dog that has been individually trained and certified or registered to work with its handler to provide emotional support, well-being, comfort, and companionship to district students. A therapy dog must have a current American Kennel Club Canine Good Citizen certificate to begin working in a school. Therapy dogs are individually trained and certified or registered to provide appropriate interactions with students and others at school. A therapy dog must be well behaved and have a temperament suitable for interaction with students and others in public school. A handler is an adult who is responsible for caring for and supervising the therapy dog, which includes toileting, feeding, grooming, and veterinary care. Students shall not act as handlers. The district is not obligated to supervise or otherwise care for a therapy dog. Therapy dogs are the personal property of a district employee or volunteer. Therapy dogs are not owned by the district. Therapy dogs are not service dogs as prescribed in policy 2375, service animals in schools. They are also not emotional support dogs intended to provide comfort to a particular individual. This policy is not intended to, does not allow students, parents, guardians, caregivers, staff, or others to bring emotional support dogs onto any school property. Should we change that to animals? Emotional support animals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Give it a
almost
little-
made a joke about a different sport animal, so I think that's a good idea.
Peacock? Okay.
Right, emotional support chicken.
Hey, they're pretty therapeutic. The therapy
So
dog. District staff who wish to have therapy dogs made available to students shall submit a plan to the building principal using policy, I guess that would be policy 2585P therapy dog plan. It must be resubmitted each year and any time a different therapy dog or handler will be used. The plan shall address all of the following topics.
Does the therapy dog plan also, you have district staff, but how about a volunteer who wants to bring their dog in? Do they have to have a plan as well?
Does that say volunteer right there?
You have district staff who wish to have a therapy dog made available. So does that apply to?
They're just the ones I think who would apply for it, not necessarily that they would be the handlers. Just
Right.
that they'd be the one creating the plan, like the writing
Okay,
the plan.
so now, But what if a volunteer comes to the school and says, hey, look, I've got, Fluffy, my dog, who's been certified, trained, and so forth. I would like to bring my dog onto your campus. Do they have to go ahead and, do they initiate that plan, or does the school, the principal, who initiates that plan?
I think they have to have a staff member then sort of support it and say, yep, I can see this being great for my whatever class, and then they would fill the form out. Does that sound right to you guys?
It does, but then in looking at this plan, the signatures are the therapy dog owner, the building principal, and the superintendent. So it's not specific to
A staff.
a staff member. So we either need to, but it does state in here, which students do you intend for the dog to serve? How will students be in appropriate behavior? How will you accommodate students who are allergic to the dog? So, I understand. I am responsible for any and all damage to district property or personal. So this plan is actually, it appears to be filled out by the handler.
So you've got a
Because if we're, in the policy, it states that the district assumes no liability. It's the liability falls onto the handler, whoever that handler is, whether it's a district staff member or a
Right.
volunteer or outsider.
Because at that point, it's immaterial.
Right.
Yeah, but it's our insurance.
What do you mean?
I mean, we're the ones with the insurance.
new. I wouldn't buy up on that at all. Even as a stakeholder, I wouldn't put our liability as
Well,
a
it's-
district.
It's different, like the insurance covers that if like something happened with a service dog, it's just part of the insurance package, so I don't know if that makes a difference, but.
I'm looking at, say, there's Aberdeen School District, which is down in Idaho. They've got their policies for their canine on campus, their facility dog, and they require the handler to have, a $2 million liability insurance to a certificate.
And anybody that uses the facility like Park and Rec, I mean, we kind of, there is that piece as well, but we do have insurance as well. It's
Right.
on both ends.
But, I'm looking at it as a risk manager, and also my background, I've written policy. I'm also, doing now insurance investigations. So insurance companies are going to go ahead and go for the deeper pocket. If you can go first and divert a liability to the handler and to the owner of said dog, they've got the $2 million liability. It's a trickle down effect eventually to us, but you're shoving everything up front to them, letting them know up front that they need to go ahead and provide that. That's just my thought.
Mhm.
And then there's, an issue is if it's a district employee, does their role as a handler take precedence over their role as supervising children first? So they, in other words, they shouldn't be able to go ahead and be handling a dog at the same time they're supervising students.
Yeah, that would be.
It's like with Aberdeens, they've got their policy says if the handler is a district employee, the following guidelines shall also apply. The handler can only be working in this capacity during the times they are not performing their regular duties as an employee of the school district. For teaching staff, this could include, with principal's permission, time prior to the beginning of the school day, lunch hour, if not performing duties related to supervision, etc., planning time, or after school. The staff member cannot at any time assume the role of handler when responsible for the care and supervision of students. And a detailed schedule must be approved by the principal and communicated to the staff. And the principal must be informed in advance of any changes to the schedule. So that kind of puts, it cuts both ways. It's very clear cut. These are for the volunteer, and then this also applies to you as a handler if you're the district employee.
I copied a permission slip from another district, and so I'm gonna link it in, and we're definitely gonna wanna wordsmith it, but most of them have an opt-out situation instead of an opt-in, and I changed it to an opt-in, and I'm gonna link it in so we can look at that too.
I think it needs to be in or out,
Okay.
because we have
That's
to
why I
have
figured
the
2 months,
response.
yeah.
Okay, so what I did in the paragraph above therapy dog plan is, the district is not obligated to supervise or otherwise care for the therapy dog. Therapy dogs are the personal property of the handler instead of district employee or volunteer. Therapy dogs are not owned by the district. Therapy dogs are not service dogs, and they are not emotional support dogs intended to provide comfort. And then for the therapy dog plan, and I changed it to handler because up here we describe what the handler is or who the handler is. So a handler who wishes to have therapy dogs made available to students shall submit a plan to the building principal using policy 2585P therapy dog plan. It must be resubmitted, thank you, each year. And anytime a different therapy dog or handler will be used.
I like it.
The plan shall address all of the following topics: the location of the therapy dog to be kept when the therapy dog is on campus. The credentials of the proposed therapy dog must include proof of the proposed therapy dog. Proof the proposed therapy dog has received the appropriate certification. Proof from a licensed veterinarian the therapy dog is in good health. Proof from a licensed veterinarian, the therapy dog is currently vaccinated against canine distemper. Let's do this, just against.
Just because I don't know this, so this is probably a stupid question, is it kind of like a shot record, like will that, essentially that's what you'll get is a mark? Okay.
Yep, just a vaccine record will show
Okay.
this vaccine, here's the date, good through.
Okay.
We're gonna break this down so no one can see. Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I see this as like a checklist when you, like when they're, from our standpoint, yeah. Sorry, I keep hogging it.
No, it's fine. Like, I do have my own copies though and stuff. Plus, I have very little to add to this, so I'm perfectly fine with you.
I feel like I keep doing this and I'm sorry.
Proof of
No,
license.
just keep it pointed at yourself. As you're the one who's actually going to contribute to this meeting.
Licensed veterinarian have a negative fecal examination every 6 months. And then plans for interaction between the proposed therapy dog and students, including student population. Therapy dog is intended to serve, the anticipated goals for and intended use of the therapy dog, proposed instruction to be provided to the students on appropriate behavior and treatment of the therapy dog, and how the staff member will accommodate students who are allergic to the therapy dog. Okay. Okay, so how the staff member will accommodate that. So, okay, cause I don't even know what this looks like. I
Mhm.
mean, the therapy
We're
dog.
literally building the ship and
Right.
flying while it's flying.
So if it's volunteer, that's a person coming into the building with their little puppy dog,
Mm-hmm.
hanging out in whatever classrooms.
Let's just say they're coming
Necessary.
for an hour or two,
Right.
3 times a week.
Right. If it's a teacher who wants to bring their therapy dog, then it's specific to that teacher, and so yes, saying how staff member. I think it may be, that statement should be how, the students who are allergic to the therapy dog, how are the students going to be accommodated who are allergic,
Mhm.
etc. Instead of how the staff member's gonna deal with it, it's more or less how is it gonna be dealt
How is
with?
the building going to address
Right.
it? Because it's the same as, when you're in the cafeteria and you
Right.
have food allergies. Like,
Right.
there has to be a plan because we will have kids.
Right.
Is there a plan for notification, on campus that there's going to be a dog on campus? In other words,
The opt-in will be that.
well, I'm looking at anyone walking on the campus, parent, student, teacher, vendor, whomever, who may be allergic to have an issue with a dog on campus. Do we make a notification for that? I'm just looking at, again, borrowing from another, school's policy. Aberdeen's got it where they've got, if you're gonna have a dog on campus, you put signage up saying, therapy dog on campus today. That way, who's ever visiting the campus knows for a fact that, hey, I'm allergic to dogs, or my little kid is fearful of the dog. I'm keeping my kid. I mean, they may not be a student, they may not be a staff member, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we could put up signage for sure.
I'm not trying to make it overcomplicated. I'm just looking at just the risk management side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm figuring if another schools have done it, and their policy was adopted in 2017. So what they do is they've got signage, essentially that says, dog on campus.
Yeah.
So how will students who are allergic to the therapy dog, fearful of the therapy dog, or whose parents do not give permission for the student to interact with the therapy dog, be accommodated?
Mm-hmm.
Would that plan be worked out with the principal or the teacher and the handler at the time? As
All
far
of
as
the above.
all of the above.
It would have to be.
So the plan also needs to include plans for care and supervision of the therapy dog, which should include the identity and credentials of the handler, proposed schedule for the handler to provide necessary care for the therapy dog, including exercise, feeding, watering, toileting, and any necessary cleanup, and proof of an insurance policy that provides liability coverage for the therapy dog while on district property. The building principal may reject a proposal for any reason and shall reject the proposal if it does not meet the requirements of this policy, the building principal does not consider the benefit to outweigh the risks and costs, the building principal believes that the time required to care for the therapy dog is inconsistent with the assigned duties of the school employee or handler. Okay, so again, we're going back down to where it's a district
Do you
employee.
want it just to say handler right there? So it's the same language that you put in the top? Cause you said a handler, the handler.
You may have to make the differentiation between the handler and the school employee, because there's two different entities there.
But the way this entire policy has been written is specific to the fact that the therapy dog and the handler are the one that's coming into the district.
Mhm.
We're not drawing any conclusion that the handler is a staff member.
Mhm.
We're keeping it in two separate lanes.
His point is if that if you wear two hats,
If you're wearing two
does
hats,
that have to be addressed in this policy? And does one supersede the other? And I feel like that's where the conversation is. You just read it, the building principal believes the time required to care for the therapy dog is inconsistent with the assigned duties of the school employee handler.
Right.
I mean, I think that has to be part of the conversation. If, you know, if I'm the teacher and I'm teaching and I have the dog with me, I'm no longer, like, I'm not, the dog's just my own personal dog at this point, it's not. So I think part of the plan is addressing that. Are there times with like lunchtime or recess time or whatever, like then you're stepping out of that, and the plan just has to consist that whether you're a volunteer or whether you're a school employee, you still have to have a plan in place, because you can't just meander through classrooms and instruction. So
Right.
I don't necessarily think it matters, because you're gonna come up with a plan regardless if it's a volunteer or a school employee. And it can't supersede, the handler part of the job can't supersede the instructional part of your job if that's a part of the job.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So the building principal believes that the time required to care for the therapy dog is inconsistent with the assigned duties of the handler?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but is the principal assigning duties to the handler?
I read this as with the assigned duties,
Of the therapeutic interaction?
yeah, mm-hmm. Try to care for the therapist. I mean, they're ruling out this is a time when you may reject it, so this is specific to a school employee.
and
Right,
that
it is.
Yeah.
is specific to a school employee, it's not,
Well, that comment is specific to a school
Yeah.
employee. The rejection clauses are not
Right.
specific solely to a school
Right.
employee.
But, I mean, yes, the way that's worded, the other piece is I'm a handler and I'm a volunteer and I wanna come in, and the only time I can come in is from 9 to 10 o'clock. Well, that's when we're doing ELA across the, building.
Mm-hmm.
I would deny it for that reason alone. So
Right.
there is a situation where it's a volunteer or it's a handler that's not an employee that I as the principal would deny it, because it's gonna impact instruction.
Right, but I don't understand how a teacher, and this could just be me because I'm not an educator, how a teacher would be like, okay, I'm going to be the handler of my therapy dog, and I'm going to bring my therapy dog into my classroom, and my therapy dog's going to benefit all my children, and I'm also going to teach my people
I
how
don't
to do
see
spelling,
that.
reading, writing, and math.
That's why I said I think it
don't see
becomes
that.
your own dog at that point.
Right.
Right, it's
just like
not,
bringing your pet to school.
right.
So that's why I'm thinking, but I appreciate the statement,
Right.
but I'm just wondering what assigned duties is the principal giving to the handler?
Well, is it some of the assigned duties listed above, the schedule, the feeding, the watering, the toileting, the cleaning up, it's
a
all of
volunteer's
this
not gonna
stuff.
go ahead and deal with I would say the scheduling, that's gonna be up to the school to go
Well,
ahead.
both parties have
Both
to,
parties,
yeah,
Right.
but they're gonna do all the feeding and watering and toileting and all the fun
Correct.
stuff with animals.
but as far as the cleanup and so forth, then do you need to go ahead and consult your janitorial staff and find a place specifically for the dog to go ahead and take care of business? And is it gonna be incumbent upon you, the principal, to go ahead and lay
No,
up that
you
spot?
said the
Or the handler, but you've got a
Well,
volunteer,
you work together.
a volunteer handler is gonna go ahead and come out to your campus.
You'd
and-
work together, that'd be
okay.
part of the plan, that would all be delineated out in the plan. Logistically, I don't see that the problem, I think Michelle's point, which is what I see, and I'm just kinda going back to like what Jake's original vision was. And I feel like it was a specialist that initially wanted to do it, and so there was some built-in time where I, like, just going into the lunchroom, like, you've talked to him more about this than I have, but I didn't see it as ever impacting classroom instruction time, like, all of that would be designated time where, it was a transition time in a classroom, like, it wouldn't impact key instructional times. So, the random, the everyday, we're gonna have to be selective of who gets to do that, because it can't, if I'm a 5th grade teacher, I don't have a lot of built-in transitional time, you know?
Right, and with this
Yeah.
policy, I don't think it appropriate to be written specifically for one school.
Right,
It's specific to the
Right.
district.
right.
So that any school that, you know, discovers, ooh, this person has a therapy dog, and there's a teacher that's, you know, like special needs group of kiddos, that it would calm the kiddos down, and they wanna work something out and bring it to the principal, who then brings it to the superintendent, so that everyone's
Right.
kept in the loop. I think that's,
But that's where I think the plan becomes individualized, cause we can accommodate almost anything in
Right.
that plan.
right,
And again, it's the times, it's where you're gonna clean, where the,
Mhm.
you know, all that stuff.
right.
When this, like, what's the most convenient time to do it, so I think the plan encompasses that. And then, you know, building principals and the handler and the building, they have to work through that piece.
Right, so then the building principal, so I took out employee. I'm just gonna make it the handler. Or otherwise, or the proposal is otherwise inconsistent with the needs of the school. We haven't chimed in much, I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm
Okay.
just listening. Everything's sounding fine.
The
You guys
building,
can chime in if you have
yes,
different thoughts.
please, jump in.
This is, again, it's so new and we haven't done
Mhm.
this, and so we're trying to, you know, and there, we may start this and then there's revisions, and that's okay too, cause
Right.
sometimes when you build something, you're like, oh, I didn't think of that.
We do that a lot.
But
I see
we-
very little chance that this will end up having a significant positive or negative impact on any of my kids in the school district. So
There you
I'm
go.
less interested in this policy.
Okay.
I love it, you're so honest.
The building principal shall submit submit the proposal to the superintendent for final review. The superintendent may approve or reject the proposal. Approval of any therapy dog program may be suspended or ended at any time by the building principal or superintendent for reasons including but not limited to the following.
Yeah, so
Any
see like number
violation.
2, it interferes.
And any violation of district policy and administrator's determination that the therapy dog's presence interferes with the educational process, or an administrator's determination that a handler or therapy dog have behaved in an unprofessional or unsafe manner. District employees shall not receive any additional pay, stipend, or compensation for providing a therapy dog or being the handler and or the owner of the therapy dog. The supervision and care of the approved therapy dog is solely the responsibility of the therapy dog handler, and the therapy dog is, when the therapy dog is on district property, the therapy dog handler will assume full responsibility and liability for any damage to district property or injury to district staff, students, and others while the therapy dog is on district property. Therapy dog handler must maintain an insurance policy that provides liability coverage for the therapy dog while on district property. I must say that like 17 times. Okay, district employees, for providing a therapy dog, for being the handler, and okay, so there we're letting people know that if they're employed with us, they can still be the handler.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alright, and we're not gonna pay them for it.
And the devil will be in the details in that plan.
Right.
If it's manageable.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So the therapy dog shall be required to wear a vest, collar, or other article identifying them as a therapy dog and distinguishing them from a service dog. A therapy dog, or the therapy dog, shall be under the control of the handler at all times and shall be required to be kept on a leash. A therapy dog shall only be allowed in the areas authorized by the building principal. If any student or school employee assigned to the classroom in which the therapy dog is permitted suffers an allergic reaction to the therapy dog, the handler will be required to remove the therapy dog to a different location designated by an administrator. Therapy dogs shall not attend field trips. A student shall not schedule or attend a session with the therapy dog, and the student shall not have contact with the therapy dog without a completed Form 2585F student permission for exposure to dogs on file.
With regard to leashes, do you have a length of leash?
Is that a thing?
Is It could be like the retractable kind you mean, make it longer.
I'm talking, you know, a maximum of 6 foot lead. And then, also, do we have anything in there that deals with a situation where you might have multiple dogs on campus? As far as, distance with the dog, you know, between the dogs and the, you know, the length of the leash, harnesses that they should be wearing, how much time a dog can be working.
Are there requirements under the training?
For leash length?
No, for how long they're allowed to work under that kennel club?
I don't think there were.
There's usually about a 2 hour, you know, a 2 hour recommendation for a dog, because again, the dog is an animal, and they do get stressed. You know, they may be, you know, warm, soft, and fluffy, but a working dog, a therapy dog, still gets stressed.
So, as far as leash, I don't know. We don't typically let animals on campuses. Like, we don't let people bring other dogs. I mean, if they try to use the park, you know, like, because we have allergies, and so if it can't be controlled, we typically, because we've had people try to bring pigs on. I mean, there's been all kinds of stuff. So
Oh, you know,
we say no to that. So I wouldn't be worried about that piece, and it would be on. So I don't know what we want. If we,
would your risk manager be concerned about that, as far as, you know, what kind of equipment they're using and so forth? I'm tossing that out there.
I have no idea.
Most laws that I've seen regarding leash don't typically specify length or type of leash, like you
Yeah,
were saying.
I'm just looking at a policy again that was, you know, by another school district, and they've limited to, you know, they get into specific colors, because it gets dealing with the dog itself and their safety and their well-being. I realize that they're certified through the kennel club and so forth. But again, my background, I was a former canine handler and I was a canine sergeant. And granted, working dogs versus therapy dogs, but I'm familiar with both. They talk about issues as far as if you've got a therapy dog, usually you'll put them on a 6 foot lead, and then you're going to have flat collars and buckles so that anybody's petting them isn't going to get hung up on those things as well. Okay, a kid, a child, student, faculty, what have you. If you're looking at a situation where you may have multiple dogs on, which again, I don't know if you've approved that or not, but you could have somebody who has their own, service dog on campus, then you've got a therapy dog on campus, or whatever. What you want to do is have a situation where if they are going to have, say, a group assembly, you've got 3 or 4 dogs, you set them about 8 foot apart on a 4 foot lead for each dog.
Yeah, I don't feel like Lisa would be on board with that. She would just say, nope, we need to simplify life.
No,
We
I
need to educate.
No, I realize that. I'm just looking at,
My
if my only concern is that if you don't put things down in writing,
Yeah.
okay, it gets, it could get to the point where you've got, Fido on one of those retractable leads, and it goes sideways. And then do we have anything that deals with a situation where, a dog bite, a scratch or whatever, and a kid gets injured? Is there anything in the policy that as far as you, the principal, should be immediately notified, staff should be notified, parents should be notified, and that protocol in this?
Well, we have injury protocols specific to any kind of that, like what the process, it's not specific to a dog, it's just anything that happens to a kid. If the kid looks different, potentially going home than they came, then we're notifying parents and there's a procedure for it. So, I mean, we could make it specific to a dog, but we have protocols specific to if a kid hits their head, if they're out at recess and they skin their knee, if they're, it's
Right,
all
right.
of the above. So we already kind of have that addressed as far as what would happen. So nurses would be called, parents would be called.
My only
But
concern
does
with requiring.
Does it give? So, again, I'm not an educator. I'm not on your school board. I'm just looking at it as somebody on the outside. without specific instruction to the handler or to the individual who you contracted with at this point, are they going to know your policies and procedures? Because they're gonna be out, on campus.
We would go over all of that, that's part of the plan.
Okay, so I'm looking at, worst case scenario, taking everything out of the picture, an attorney going, okay, did you instruct so-and-so on how to do this? And they may say, I don't remember. Okay, but then you're gonna say, well, there's this policy here. They're not gonna be able to backflip through those
Well,
policies.
if the plan has a signature, so it would, they'd have to sign the plan, and we'd list in the plan that this was all what we went over and everything, and so every party would sign it. That would just be part of any liability of any kind as far as a child being hurt, that's gonna be a given in a plan. We're interacting, we do it for field trips, we do it
Is-
for,
Based upon the policy here, are you going to construct an agreement that the handler and the school district is gonna sign as like a contract?
well, that's what we're talking about,
Okay,
there's
so
a
this
plan.
is the policy, but they're gonna come up.
No, there's a link in there for a
Oh.
plan that
That
will
we
have all
haven't
of that.
revised yet.
Yeah, that will add, yeah.
P. My only reservation about telling someone what they can and can't do with their therapy dog as far as leash, as far as vest, as far as requiring certain things is that if they choose, if they do follow what we've required and something happens to that dog because of what we have required, we have then inadvertently assumed liability for that dog and they can sue the district. I don't want to go there. I think if we are willing to entertain an idea of a therapy dog on campus and you have the eyes of the principal involved in working with, the handler comes forward with their plan, the principal's like, okay, I'm on board, here's where I need it tweaked to accommodate the needs of my school, etc. And then it's given to the superintendent who may or may not run it by the insurance company. This is our first go at it, looking over this, how do you think everything's okay?
Right.
I think we have a graduated approach to trying it at a
Right.
school. And I think that with respect to telling a handler what to do and how to do with their dog, that's a whole ball of liability the district's now asserting themselves into that I don't think is appropriate. But that's my own personal opinion.
The
I mean,
only
maybe
other
Richard should
thing
say something
that
else.
I was thinking to add on here is that there's no, you as the board you're not notified at all. So do we wanna add that, there's just a notification? Cause we don't have that listed. I'm assuming you guys wanna know if there's a dog in the school.
Yeah, do we have animals roaming around?
Yeah.
Heck, animals have been in classrooms and.
Right, obviously Lisa's gonna fit, it doesn't say that anywhere.
Right,
that
it
there's some
doesn't.
notification of some kind, and it could just be that's part of the plan, because, maybe we added in the plan where that's one of the check and balances, is you guys you're notified or you see the plan, I don't know.
Well, and that can be brought up for discussion at the board meeting.
Yeah.
If we want to add something in there to where, because if 4 of the 5 board members could care less about being notified that this is going
Yeah.
on, then me personally, I'd like to know.
Right.
Just because I want to go check it out.
Right.
But, yeah, because there are several things that were just like, okay, direct to the superintendent, you need to just keep us in the loop on this.
Right.
It's not specific within
Yeah,
the
once you
policy.
see it, all these great pictures of our social media highlights, and you're like, oh, we have a dog. Awesome, didn't know about that.
We've had several of those moments, but that's okay.
You might freak out if you had a pig.
Therapy pig, how cool is
Oh,
that?
cute. Can you imagine? I'm just grossed out by the fluids that would come from that situation.
Okay, so is there more that you'd like us to add, or that you'd like to add to this policy?
Apparently people never go home.
There's,
We love this place.
We're always talking about there's people there.
One of the things that Aberdeen has is that teachers may schedule their, for a therapy dog, and at times the handler may call to see if, if it's suitable to have the therapy dog in the classroom. And then they talk about no more than 3 students should be interacting with the dog at a time.
Well,
But again, you guys don't want to go down that road as to limit what the handler can and can't do with their dog. My personal opinion is that there's a saying, if it's predictable, it's preventable. And, I think we can and should put some restrictions on what the handler can and can't do with their dog. But I realize that it's in its infancy. And again, I'm supportive of the program. I'm just looking at trying to make it safe for the dog, the handler, the staff. Have we addressed anything where a staff member could have an issue with the dog being on campus or in their classroom and opting out or opting in? I don't know. I mean, that's, you may have a teacher who goes, I'm allergic, I can't. So how does, we've talked about the student. I don't know if we've talked about the staff.
I just feel like, in my world, if that's just a given, if somebody can't handle it, the reality is I'm at a building and I have 10 kids who are highly allergic. This would not be something I'd ever even consider, because I have no scenario where I can't control that. You know what I mean? And I'm inadvertently, even if I say I'm just gonna bring this, I potentially am putting kids at risk. And so there are gonna be scenarios where if you have staff members that are severely, that you're not gonna compromise that, or you're gonna figure out some type of workaround. But if there's not a feasible workaround,
Right.
you're not gonna do it. So that to me is a given. So,
The principal has broad discretion here too,
mhm.
so
Oh, yeah, no,
I feel like that should cover
Yeah,
that kind of situation.
exactly. Yeah, if it's gonna do, again, the language says it's gonna do more damage.
Right.
What about
And the principal may reject a proposal for any reason.
Mhm.
What about a handler who wants to come in and, take photographs of the students?
Only certain kids can be photographed, and if the handler, we would allow pictures if it's a staff member doing pictures and it's for like a Facebook or something, but parents often for pictures or no pictures, and it would have to be controlled by the school, and we have policy on that.
So that's but you already
It's
have.
not in this policy, we have policy specific to pictures,
Okay.
yeah. But,
I guess maybe I'm not familiar with, I'm used to if writing a policy, and sometimes it may overlap,
well,
with other policies. At
we
least
try
I've
to
got-
stay
I've-
away from that only because in years past it's happened, and then what happens is you make a little tweak here, and then you're now 7 layers deep in other policies that you don't necessarily know that the same verbiage was used, and so then policies start contradicting each other, and so we really tried to we reference it at the bottom that this is where it would be addressed, but we really try to stay away from having 7 policies say the same thing. So we do have policies specific to that, and we don't typically allow just random people to come in and take pictures of kids, and so it would be all in a controlled, if we were
Okay.
doing an event, then staff would be taking pictures. And if those pictures, if when we've had the reptile guy come in and they wanna take pictures of their performance, then there's a permission slip that goes out to parents allowing
Got
their
it.
kids to
Okay.
participate, and 2, allowing their kids to have their picture taken and then published, because that's beyond just the scope of our Facebook social media pages, they're doing it for their own advertisement,
Right,
so there's a
right.
permission slip attached to that. So,
Okay. Do we have anything in the policy that deals with injury to the therapy dog, either by an accident or caused by the student? I.e., the therapy dog will be removed, by the handler calmly from the situation and taken to a safe area for evaluation and treatment by the handler. If required, the handler will take the therapy dog to the veterinarian for treatment and for evaluation. And the principal or the designee will inform the student's parents if harm or injury was caused by the student.
have plans for care and supervision of the therapy dog. I just would assume if the dog was hurt, then we'd fill out an accident report, which is part of our policy, and then they would do whatever was necessary. But I don't know, Michelle, what do you think? Should we be addressing that in here? Anytime there's an accident of any kind, we fill out an accident report. Student, staff, and if the handler, I feel like that's all encompassing.
Or the dog.
Right, it would be all encompassing, because it's an accident on
Right,
campus, so
right,
we know
so
that.
there's, right, I mean, that's what we call a supervisory report of accident.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
we do that.
does,
I think the sentence of proof of an insurance policy that provides liability coverage for the therapy dog while on district property, it covers that.
now I'm talking about the you know, how the dog, how it's gonna be handled, as far as, you know, you've got a dog and they're interacting with a student, all of a sudden, you know, dog, you know, maybe breaks his leg or student falls on dog, okay? So now, you know, it gives direction for the handler.
This policy is for the school though, it's not like exactly for the handler.
Well, it covers both, because, you know, now you have a student who's interacted with the dog, and the student either misbehaved or caused an injury to the dog. So now, you know, in the policy here, you inform the handler that, yeah, we're gonna take care of your dog. Not take care of your dog, but we will go ahead and, you know, here's how you handle your dog, and this is what we're gonna do in regard to the student.
This would be my 2 cents. That would be an accident report. We would fill it out, this is what happened, all of those get sent to the district. It doesn't matter.
But are you gonna notify the student's parents in regard to the, you know?
Well, yeah, you would, it's all of the above. Whenever there's an accident of any kind, parents are notified, and.
If the student causes the accident?
It doesn't matter, it's an
Okay.
accident, so whether it was the dog's fault, the handler's fault, a true accident, if there's an accident and anybody in that vicinity was hurt, parents are notified, and then, again, it's, you know, we call 911 if we feel like it's an emergency, but ultimately, you know, if the parents don't wanna do 911, then they get to make that decision. If a handler decided because it was the dog, they wanted to go to a vet, they get to decide it's their dog. So
Right.
the accident report in my mind covers all of that, whether it's the student, the dog, the handler, it happened on our campus, and so we're documenting
Okay.
it, and then people follow suit and do what.
Yeah, and with the whole, like, here's where the dog would go to be evaluated if
Right,
the
that
dog were
should
hurt, I
be-
feel like the handler would just make that call,
Right.
whether
Yeah.
I'm gonna come in this corner and evaluate my dog,
Right.
or I'm going to the
Right.
car to take him to the vet.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like in our accident report, we'll note, like if, you know, we've had an emergency where we, you know, weren't sure, and the nurse was like, I feel like this could be, you know, a scary situation, and we're calling 911. We've had parents say, yes, I'm comfortable transporting, no, I don't want that. I mean, then we just document what the parents decided to do. They have the authority to make that decision about their kid. I feel like the handler should have the authority with their dog. But the accident report covers that, in my mind.
Gratuities for the handler. The handler will not charge a fee for work they perform for the therapy dog. They will not borrow money from the or personal items, or receive personal gratuities, gifts, tips, etc. I know it talks about being paid, but
I don't know too many elementary students that would think to tip the therapy dog handler. I could be mistaken, but.
you're writing a policy for the entire district. Okay, so that includes junior high or high schools or whatever. Or you could have a parent who says, you know, I want to give, you know, handler Fluffy.
I feel like I keep saying this, and I'm not trying to be adversarial, but we actually have a policy about gifts. I'm sorry.
For staff.
Yeah, we do. We have a policy about what you're allowed and not allowed, and
Okay.
yeah,
So
I know. I feel like I keep
I
going.
don't, that's why I don't know.
Yeah, so-
I'm bringing this forward, and I'm just looking
Yeah.
at, you know, pardon me, especially being fat, dumb, and stupid, and plagiarizing
Yeah.
the heck out of what was on
Yeah.
another Idaho policy.
Right. We have a policy, and again,
And-
they probably intertwine them. We've tried to stay away from that, but we do have a policy around donations and what's allowed to be given. And I haven't looked at it in a while, so I can't verbatim tell you what it says, but We don't get gifts very often, so I haven't had to look at it. But
We can't give the teachers chocolates.
I mean, you like, you know, you
'Cause it's gonna be
there. I
hard to
think
stop
there's
my
I
wife.
think there's a dollar. I think there's a dollar limit. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly what it is, but there
Yeah.
is a dollar limit. Like,
If I'm coming across like negative Nancy, please don't, I hope I'm not looking at that, you know, and being perceived that way. I'm just looking at, like I said, borrowing from another,
right.
you know,
I just said that because I feel like I keep going, so I
Well,
just
the
wanted to
general
say that.
draft of this policy actually came from Idaho School Board Association.
right,
Which is lobbyists and lawyers that
right.
do their thing.
I'm assuming, again, there I go, assuming being, you know,
It's policy 4500 that's specific to public gifts and donations to schools. So
I mean, I'm just looking at, you know, I'm assuming the same school district or a similar district, you know, that's had their policy for the last 5 years, where they adopted it and they've been having a program, you know.
yeah,
I'm just looking at somebody that's had a successful program ongoing. I mean, they've even come out with responsibilities of the principal, you know, to go ahead, like a checkbox. I don't know if that would be something that we entertain or look at, or just go with what you got now and then adapt and tweak things as you go along.
Well, I mean, respectfully, our policy about gifts is specific to our employees. This is a
Right.
handler who is not going to be our employee because they're not being paid for bringing their pup onto school grounds. I don't know
good point.
that, I mean, me personally, I don't care if little Susie wants to get the handler 50 cents or $1 or $10. I personally would hope that the dog handler would have enough moral turpitude to say, no thanks Susie, I don't need a tip. But who knows? I don't, I mean,
Yeah.
but the handler is not our employees, so that policy is
Alright.
not gonna be specific to the handler about
Okay.
gifts. I mean, I don't know if it should be cause for concern, tipping the handler. Cause I mean, I just envision this as like an hour to 2 hours. I think Jake's perception may have been that it's like an all-day event for one specific teacher because they wanted to
Because it
bring
was
their
a
dog.
staff member.
Right.
Yeah.
But this program for district-wide, I really believe it's more of an hour or two event in the school specific to a teacher in a class.
Right.
I don't think it's, you know, Joe Handler meandering the halls saying pet the dog.
Yeah, well, and
But I don't know.
can you, at Christmas time, do you see if this person has had a great impact on your kid? Maybe a gift card for
Right.
100%.
Starbucks.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that's, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what typically happens. We do have volunteers that are there on a regular basis, and parents will do that. So
Right.
I just always go to that policy because I feel like it encompasses anybody within, but you're right, it's specific to staff, but even volunteer, I mean, but it's the Starbucks gift card, or it's the,
Mhm.
you know, just, it's the coffee cup and
Mhm.
the filled
Yeah,
candy
no, it's-
and, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, it's a good suggestion, and
yeah,
what I wouldn't mind is if you came to the board meeting where this policy is reviewed by the board and tossed some of these ideas onto the board, so that, I mean, maybe they could provide further, like, yeah, we really want to make this more beefier, more,
Buttoned up.
yeah, instead of, you know, just the generic all over, you know, blanket.
Yes, I mean, again, I'm looking at having, you know, okay, how to use a dog. All right, this is how, you know, we use our dog in this situation, da 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 da. And then it's got, like on this policy, they got responsibilities for the principal. So it talks about, you know, working in conjunction with the handler and laying out, in essence, it's a boilerplate. You got a checkbox, boom, we got this, we got our plan. everyone.
We also have this other one, to look at, 2585F, the actual therapy dog plan. This does kind of, speak to a little bit of the questions you have regarding liability and injuries and so forth. So if
Yeah,
you
and I
look at
think-
2585F, it does, talk a little bit about the
And I
issues
think
of
the
bringing up.
idea is we've tried to make the policy and then any of those additional, it's like a procedure or it's a form, so where it sounds like this other district just put it all in a narrative, we were trying to, cause we've just, when it's a big long.
They broke it out.
No, but it's all a narrative, essentially, like it's bullets, but it's a big long,
Right, see this, responsibilities for principals, that to me would go on a 2585 PR for procedures.
yeah.
Yeah, PR. So, because it's always great to have procedures, but what we have found and what we have heard repeatedly from a lot of people is our policies are long and boring, and so people don't read them. So if you specifically say, here's the policy for what is actually happening, and then here are the procedures if you wanna make it happen, people like that much
So
better.
we've tried to just delineate out like what needs to be if I'm the principal versus like you as a parent, what do you need to know? And then if there's some behind the scenes that are procedural to the principal or implementation, we pulled that out. A lot of policies, they'll just list it all in there, but the feedback has been it's just they're 5 pages and people don't read them and they get lost in the minutia. So we've tried to just again fast track and streamline this as much as policy. And so things that are specific to a principal, then it's in a procedure and it's still public, you can still see it, but then it's just step by step. So,
And me stating, come tell the board, the reason I state that is, forever, this little committee was me and Ramona. And Lynn and Rosanna and one other person before when there was no Lynn. I mean, it's just been, in a sense, the board, and we sort of revise it, and then we go before the board saying, here's the revisions, and this is kind of how we got to where we're at. We've never had parent patron input, and so what
like
needs
in
to
person.
happen, right, what needs to happen is the board wants to hear from the parents to say either tighten your policies up or have you considered this aspect, because the board is the one, it's not the policy committee, it's the
Right.
board
Oh, yeah.
that makes the policies, but the board entrusts the policy committee to kind of give them something to work with. And so instead of, feeling like maybe we're not really handling it here, but we're gonna make this policy go out and amidst all the people, I would encourage you to seriously come and for the policy committee, speak on, your concerns with maybe we need to consider this or maybe we need to consider
well, and it
that.
may come out, so when this is all said and done and we have those 2 additional, we've looked at the plan and we looked at the or the student permission slip, when we get the okay to send it out for, parent or patron input, like some of that feedback may come back of like this needs to be tightened up or what, and we do typically go, line by line looking at themes and then go, we've had enough, we need to add this back in. So then some of that can be reflected, and Michelle typically will say like, this was the discussion, so that's what she's encouraging you, like you're
Oh, yeah.
bringing up part of the discussion so she doesn't have to recall it all herself.
Right.
Because I mean, and then this is what these are the 5 themes that we saw from the input, but we've had policies where, we've had 5 people give input and it, so that's the board we're trying to encapsulate everything that's happened and give them so that they're making the most informed decision. But again, we have tried to streamline so it's not super long, it's not 7 pages.
Yeah.
So, and so that, the principal's like, okay, I'm gonna do this, where do I go to this is the part that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is the part that the parent needs to understand, so, yeah.
I just checked my other email and I did see that, David did, share with me a document, a therapy dog policy proposal draft. If we'd like to look at that, I can bring that up on the big screen.
Just for time purposes, if anybody, I'm just one person, but I would like to get a draft out, and then the next time we come back, we can look at Dave's, and then just because it's 6:15 now, because
Sure.
to get parent input, we need to get that plan at least a draft of the plan, and we need to get a draft of the form, the permission slip form, so are we okay to just like send this one out, the cleaned up, what we have? The next time we come back, we can go through each of the feedback pieces, and then we can look at yours and see if there's anything we wanna merge with that, and then that'll be the final draft that goes in front of the board. Are you guys okay with that? Cause otherwise we're tabling this again if we don't get
Yeah.
those other two done.
Right.
Okay. Sorry, I get bossy when we're
This will go out to,
everyone.
okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right, you're good. I was just gonna say, is there anything in these that you have with, like a letter to the student or to the community saying, you know, kind of like announcing, I mean, you've got the policy and you've got a form, you know, the opt-in and opt-out, but kind of introducing what the plan is.
That would probably happen at the building level, and that is something that you know, as part of the plan we can work on, but right now we're just, you know, gonna dial
Oh,
in the,
yeah.
and the other piece that I think is important is we have tried to give building principals autonomy, like, okay, cause at my school, I'm not out of school anymore, but if I might use it differently than a different person, and so some of that has to be building specific, it's not going to be a generic district one, because the time might be different, and so, you know,
Okay.
some of that we try to not make it so structured that we're tying hands. So do we wanna look at the plan first, or do we wanna look at the permission form?
Okay, well, hold on.
Okay,
Rosanna, what
sorry.
I'd like you to do
Mhm.
is in the drive for 2585, you need to delete 2585F dash therapy dog plan dash ISBA 2021 .docsx. Cause I almost started working on it, and that's a Word document. So get rid of it. It looks like 2585P is a Google Doc. And that's the therapy dog plan as well.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the one you want me to delete.
Doc X at the bottom of your screen up there, is that the one?
Where? What X?
Well, both of those Word documents should be deleted.
Yeah, get those out of there.
I'm gonna, Rosanna, I'll move the therapy plan,
This one.
oh yeah, it's already in there, the one that we've been talking about, they're both in there.
I added the word draft to 2585P,
Okay,
and then I'm unbolding everything. Thank you.
I'm gonna put the permission slip in here too. Today this will go out to, it'll go out as a Skylert, and then, with the old policy, well, there won't be an old policy, cause we don't have one, but with the new policy, and then the draft policy for feedback, and so then people can tell us yay, nay, whatever, in that form. And then when we come back next time, you guys will see all the feedback. too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same. All right.
Any thoughts on this, Jacqueline?
Hmm?
Do you feel like it's
I
comprehensive?
feel like it's pretty comprehensive. My only thoughts on it were like I like checklists, and maybe this would be a separate thing, but like I could envision like a little box at the end, like principal to do to make sure it's completed before goes to superintendent for signature, and it's like,
Right.
have we sent out the permission
Like the
forms?
internal office.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is the teacher not allergic? You know, like just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
those things, but.
That's a good.
The dates of visit line, I mean, I guess you could write this anyway, but like, you know, to me, those seem like, here is the 3 dates or something, but if it's like an ongoing thing, could you just, is that clear that they could just write in there, like, every Wednesday from 9 to 10 or something
Mhm.
like that? Like, schedule of visits or something, maybe? Dates or schedule.
This is very nitpicky, but the formatting of the word date is different.
Oh yeah,
On the
that'll
3.
bother Michelle.
It's centered underlined on the bottom one and right justified on the other ones.
On what,
The,
Oh,
the
she
signature
sent it
page.
already in hers, I guess.
what's that?
Oh,
On
she
the
did.
hard copy that
Oh, the
we
hard
have,
copy's all
the
good?
right
Okay.
side, and then this one's the
Oh, yeah, I don't know who did that. It
Making
wasn't
me
me.
crazy.
That's okay, the
So-
spacing is driving me nuts.
Can be the extent
But
of
I'm
my
not
contributions today.
Thank you, I appreciate that. The only thing that I was, questioning was, says, I understand I'm responsible for any and all damage to district property or personal property. Whose personal property?
I mean, I would think if it's a student, it's their jacket and the dog has an accident on it. I mean,
Okay, but again, whose personal
it
property?
could be a student, it could be
Staff.
teachers, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I envision that. And hopefully that doesn't happen. But
Good, just add that in there then. Do you want to add to what he was mentioning earlier too? I don't see how it says that if something were to happen to the dog and the dog were to be injured, do we wanna just write that in here also? For what they are agreeing they understand? I understand the district is not responsible for any costs related to my therapy dog, including,
it does
Any
say,
injury
yeah,
or
personal
whatever.
property caused by, but maybe change that to say including or something,
Yeah.
yeah.
Caused by or to my therapy dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that or to.
Where are we at?
in this
Still on
section.
your, I understand for any
here.
responsibility.
In this
Oh,
one?
yeah, she's, yep.
Okay. I understand I'm responsible for any and all damage to district property or any student and staff personal property and any injuries caused
To or by my therapy dog. You go, Nate.
to
Yeah.
Bringing it home.
Yeah.
Nice.
Put that one on my
See, that was
resume.
contribution.
I also understand the district is not responsible for any costs related to my therapy dog. I agree to indemnify unless following documentation must be included with this request form. Be relevant all credentials. All credentials held by the handler. Any relevant just seems too subjective. Okay, but we'll be specific in the policy on some of these documentations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So.
Yeah, we looked at the back.
Use the restroom.
It's crazy that it takes so long to get a policy.
Well, it's just how policy meetings go. It's not the first time policy meeting I've been in. Especially in this context where you're responsible for federal law and state law and like patron approval and a million other things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so then. Okay, I'm thinking that I'm gonna add on, under here, the credentials on policy 2585. In the second paragraph, we do state that the therapy dog must have a current AKC Canine Good Citizen certificate.
Mm-hmm.
But in the plan, we don't require it as part of the credentials. So I
But we're
think we
gonna
need,
add it.
we need to add it down there and then putting it on here.
Okay. So you're listing it under number 2 as one of the credentials and you're putting it on the plan? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I will do.
Did you say it, A says the appropriate certification, we just wanna say the American Kennel Club Canine Good Citizen Certificate? Okay,
Because that's what we're saying,
I'm
yeah.
just gonna do it.
Oh, I already did it,
Oh, you did?
on the form.
I'm gonna do it on the.
I didn't do it
oh,
on 2585
I'm
yet.
gonna do that there.
Okay.
But I'm gonna take off where it says receive the appropriate and just list what it should be
What? Where are you at?
on the actual policy. So under A, it says the credentials of the proposed therapy dog must include, and I said proof the proposed therapy dog has received American Kennel Club Canine Good Citizen Certificate.
Okay.
Do you not
And
want?
then B would be proof the proposed therapy dog has received the Oh, we have an appropriate certification. Okay.
I'm just
so-
naming the certification.
Perfect, so it
Okay.
is there, it's just the wrong wording because it's the wording up in this one. Okay, we're both on the same page.
Okay.
So
It's
then,
like, I thought I understood what you were saying.
you did, I just, you know. Okay, documentation. So I'm gonna take that out. I just went off of our plan because it was better than just, okay, I'll correct. Now, in this policy, we don't, I thought we had talked about it, I don't see it on here. Because I remember having the conversation about the handler's credentials, and we were like, yeah, anybody can make those up, there's no proof of anything, so, okay.
Do we have anything as far as the handler's credentials or no?
No.
Does that policy list something?
The only thing that this one does is it talks about showing proof of a criminal background check.
That has to happen, anybody that comes into the building that's gonna be around kids has to be run through after, and we do a background check.
So that could be on the principal's procedure thing you were talking
Well,
about. Checklist of things.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
but I was
So
gonna
that- so
say
that's-
it's part of the, anybody going into the building policy. I feel like I'd be annoying, like, policy for that. So anybody that's going to be in the building working with kids has to have that done. It is not specific to this, but anybody. You can't walk in and work in a classroom without having your license ran.
I couldn't even go to the Halloween party without.
Right.
Okay,
So that's just if you're gonna be in the school, it has to happen regardless of what the context is. You wanna add it in there?
no, I just, maybe I'm confused because pretending I'm gonna be a volunteer, okay? And I look on the policy here and it says, okay, I need to go ahead and do all these things. And then I come to you, the principal or the teacher, and you say, oh, by the way, you need to do blah, 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 blah. So I as a person don't know that on its face because I've got to start flipping through other policies and procedures to understand how to get to be a handler on campus. I'm just thinking if it was just all in one thing for the handler, it would be simple, stupid, and okay, this is, I'm reading the policy here, it tells me that I need to do this, then I can go ahead and prior to me even coming to you on campus, get all my ducks in a row and going, voila, here's what I have for you. And it simplifies it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter to me how.
It doesn't matter, I mean,
But
you know.
you don't have to bring anything, it's just part of when you have to bring your license and that's it, and then it gets ran and that's anybody walking in the building, that's just part of it, so they wouldn't be able to walk in the building under any guise to do anything without that, so, but we could put it in here if that makes it easier for the handler.
On the 2585, number 2 says the credentials of any proposed therapy dog must include, and then lists all the things that we're relisting now. We
Mhm.
could change that to say the credentials of the proposed therapy dog and handler must include, and just add that as like E, completed background check, just so it's listed there, if that's the only other thing we're requiring,
Yeah,
if we want.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I'm doing a morning
Well,
person,
this,
so I don't wanna say
yeah,
anything.
this is the components of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then,
So to his point, if we
Right,
wanted
right,
to add
right.
it, like just put E and add
okay,
background check completed at the district or however that works.
so proof of completed background check.
Well, see, I would interpret that as I have to go out and personally get a background check done. If you're
And?
saying proof of completed background check. What Lynn is talking about is when the school slides an identification or inputs identification into that system that you question about the payment for, Seesaw or something. And that is what you're stating is the background check. I think if I'm understanding David, a background check in law enforcement terms is different, correct? Is that where you're going,
Yeah.
or?
In
So
other
I
words,
think that.
because I don't know if just swiping, again, I'm not familiar with what the swipe does, okay? I'm assuming it just gives you basic information as to who the individual is, not a criminal background check as to, pardon the expression, is the person a registered sex offender? Is he, you know?
It will give you all of that, that's why
I
we have.
I don't know
Yeah,
that.
it has all that. It'll give you that, but I mean, it's not an extensive like law enforcement would do. It 100% isn't, but
Okay,
it
so
does give you that information.
when
I'm looking at just, you know, protecting the kid.
For sure.
you know.
when we have a volunteer that comes into the school on a regular basis,
Mhm.
are we re-credentialing them every single time and swiping?
No.
Or are we putting them through
They
a
have to
little
do it-
bit more extensive
It's a year,
background
isn't it?
check?
It's once a
Yeah,
year.
because I just did that as a volunteer.
Yeah, and then you have to have
Okay.
a badge and, yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
but that, isn't that a little bit more extensive than the swipe, or is it not?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so then.
I mean, if you're volunteering, you go through an orientation, but as far as the background check part, it's just the Raptor piece.
Alright, so then, to kind of kill two birds with one stone here, it seems like we would want to make sure that they have completed the volunteer packet of information or whatnot that
mhm.
includes the background check. So that could be added to
Mhm.
85 and then added to here.
And we did say in the policy, there is a one thing where it says specific to every 6 months, and so you could then say that they have to run through that. But to your point, the way it's worded now, it looks like it's like you're going to law enforcement and having them do
Yes,
a detailed
Cause
one.
you have to bring proof, that's what it says.
Right, and we do one that gives you I mean, if you're a registered sex offender, that already happens, but, I mean, do we want a more extensive one? I don't know, but then they're paying for that, obviously, and that's just what we wanna do. But we do there is a standard one that if you're gonna work with kids at all, are you registered
Well,
sex
this-
offender,
The 6 month thing is the negative fecal
oh
examination.
yeah, I knew
Yeah.
there was 6 months or something.
Poor
But if
puppy.
we're-
For the
But-
handler?
Yeah, we want a negative fecal
But if we
examination from you
but
too.
if we have to ask for that, you could ask for some other things every 6, so then it's just a
Yeah.
system. I mean, it does say that they have to show proof of that, so in my mind, part of the plan is you're sometime checking that there was another check, I don't know.
Right. I don't know. If I were a building principal and some random came in off the street saying, hey, I've got a therapy dog, I think my spidey senses would be a lot higher
For sure.
than if my teacher had a friend who has a therapy dog and there's a relationship. So I guess I'm just trying to say how much scrutiny are we going to give
Right.
and does it vary? Because if I would think most handlers would have some form of connection, be it their grandkid, be it their kid, be it their niece, nephew.
Right,
There's
100%.
some connection somehow because 95% of our volunteers are connected somehow to our schools.
Right.
So, I mean,
Right, so the question is do we want a more extensive one? Or do you want one that's gonna, just like if you were gonna go participate in a youth group or whatever, I mean, there's a standard, background check that they do. That's what we do, and so do we want one that's more extensive? We just have to decide, but there is something available at the school through that they would have to do if they were gonna, they're gonna have to do that one anyways, even if they produce it, the school will, cause it's part of our policy that when you walk in the building, so they're gonna do it no matter what.
right.
And then they produce a badge and the whole 9 yards.
I think the principal's discretion covers this to some significant degree as well. Like if I was the principal and some rando walked in, I'd be like, hit the red, walk out.
Right,
Nobody knows who you are.
right.
Right.
Yeah,
Denied.
you're not coming in. Thank you.
Right, exactly.
Nice try. But I mean, granted, living here for as long as I have, times are a-changing, so
Right.
that's,
Yeah, so do you want to add a proof of a more,
me personally, I don't. But I do wanna make sure that they are in compliant with every other volunteer that needs to come in with our school, that
Mhm.
they're going through that same scrutiny,
Right.
not just this plan,
right,
so.
which was why I was, and again, I keep going, well, we do have a policy. I mean, but it's just that there is a protocol for that.
Well, and I
And you,
think-
like, when you came in for the
Mhm.
observations at Betty Kiefer, I mean, we even made the board go through it.
Yeah, they scanned it.
They didn't have,
Poor David, he's like, here's my ID.
yeah, he didn't have a badge, and so, we scanned them, and they had to wait, and, cause that's what the policy says, it's what we do, and so, he had to turn in his ID and have it the whole 9 yards.
And in all fairness, he was very excited that they actually did that,
Yeah.
because that just shows that it doesn't really matter who you are,
Mhm.
we're just gonna treat you like
Mhm.
you're nobody.
Mhm.
So-
I always toss it out there in the, the catchphrase, in the abundance of caution.
Mhm.
In this day and age, and unfortunately being jaded that I am, folks will use any manipulative ways to go ahead and get in touch with a kid. And that's just my own personal opinion, based on 35 years of experience in this business.
We could highlight this part.
Bad things happen to good people, and bad people do, bad things to good people.
Yeah.
We
I
could
just
highlight
wonder-
this part and then have that be a part of the discussion with the board of
Yeah.
like, okay, these are our two options and which one are we thinking we want to include?
Right, cause if we're not making every parent volunteer go down to the police station and get a criminal background check.
Right, but.
Does the Raptor check not cover criminal activity?
Pardon me?
I assumed the Raptor check covered criminal
I
background.
have no idea, I'm not that familiar with the system.
I don't know
All
how extensive it goes though.
I don't know how extensive it does.
So,
I just
And it
know what I
alerts
do
us to
to
sex
get my job, and I know what
offenders and-
teachers have to do to get their jobs.
Axe murderers, hopefully.
mhm.
Speeding tickets, hopefully not.
I'm checking you out later.
Yeah.
I mean, no
Your card
one
was
really
rang, you
cares
said it happened, I'm
about,
gonna ask.
but, do I want somebody that's in my school that's got a history of domestic violence or whatever? No. And we don't know that. There's just,
Well, I just
because
think we
my,
ask the board.
and my
expect it.
concern is, I don't wanna go ahead and have to answer the question, why didn't you check? If something bad does happen. I mean, obviously you cannot stop everything, I get that, totally get it. But if you can put up roadblocks and put up,
Right.
things,
I just
why
think
not?
we ask the question
but
to
ask,
the board.
ask the board and
Yeah.
pass it up on them.
Okay, so I added a proof of a completed volunteer packet, and I highlighted volunteer packet, which will prompt me to remember to tell everyone, hey,
We can do one or the other.
yeah.
And or both, because if we do the other, both will happen. Because
Mhm.
it's part of the practice.
And I can see if somebody's coming in just, a one-shot deal, or a couple-shot deal. If you've got somebody who's repeatedly coming around, then, yeah.
Yeah, we don't make the exception, it's if you're coming in, I mean, like Jacqueline said for the Halloween party, she had to do it.
guess, yeah. My turn to kick you.
So I think everything that was here is in here.
Going back to 2585, we have identification for the therapy dog wearing a vest. What about the handler wearing identification or a badge or a shirt or something?
The office will make them, like Lynn was saying, as part of their other policies. If visitors on campus, I think that's
They
probably
have to have a
covered.
badge.
They're given a badge when they check
Would
in.
would it help though to have them wear, you know, therapy dog handler or something, or, you know, the badge isn't going to totally get the idea of a badge, but you want to, you know, I would assume highlight that so that they can be spotted easily. Or is this for another discussion?
I don't know. I mean, for safety reasons, they'll have to have a badge, and the only other, I mean, when kids are outside, we have duties outside.
For safety, playing devil's advocate on that side of it, saying for a safety issue, puppies wearing vest, that's great, okay? People huddle around puppy and so forth and doggy. Handlers there, they may not see handler, they may not see dog either, okay? So you're able to go ahead and spot handler dog moving about your campus and so forth. Just,
Yeah, we have, our duties where if they're outside, they wear vests so that the kids can find them for safety purposes. So we have vests, we can make them wear it, but.
Right, but the handler is there for a specific purpose and will be targeted to a specific classroom with specific kids. I don't envision, because the plan doesn't accommodate this, that the therapy handler, the handler person, is just meandering around the school with the dog. Because that's not the intention of the therapy dog. The intention is for the therapy dog to offer some sense of emotional support or stability, behavior stability within a specific classroom for a specific purpose. So I don't know that it's appropriate to be like, well, you have to be in some form of a uniform, which is basically what we're asking, something to.
not at all.
A vest is a uniform. If it's required to be worn, it's a uniform. So we're telling them, now you have to wear this, you have to do
It's
that,
your- it's
but
your
we're not
s- it's
doing
your
that with
school, our
any other
school.
volunteer.
And I, as a parent, would wanna go ahead and, you know, have that so that, you know, it'd be more, I would think, hey, look, you know, here's Fluffy coming in and this is so-and-so, and I can identify Miss so-and-so, or Mr. so-and-so, you know. And I would think that if their organization has a shirt, you know, Canine Companions or whatever, that's appropriate, that's fine. But identifies them as the handler because you know and I know who the handler is. And they can be spotted easily. If the dog, even out in a classroom, you know, you've got a situation where things could go sideways, you know, you can identify that handler and link that handler to the dog immediately as opposed to trying to identify a little badge.
Shouldn't he always be holding the dog's
Yeah, that's what I was
leash?
thinking is they'll know because we did say the dog had to be leashed at all times,
Right.
so.
And they can't pass that responsibility off to someone else.
We could change that language if we wanted to make sure like they're always holding the dog's leashed and controlled by the handler in 2585. I don't know if that's what we want, like are kids allowed to walk the dog?
No,
Okay, then.
because it does state that no student will be, no student shall not act as handlers. The handler is responsible for caring for and supervising the dog which includes toileting, feeding, grooming, veterinary care.
Cause the moment we give it to a
Um,
kid, we assume liability.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
whereas-
think we
Is-
should just add controlling onto the, like, leashed and controlled by the handler, or just put it in that sentence even, you know, just
Yeah,
somewhere.
try to find where we said where the leash part is.
And then is the handler allowed to be alone with
It actually
students?
says the therapy dog shall be under the control of the handler at all times,
I know.
That already says it.
Yeah.
and shall be required to be kept on a leash.
Accidents happen. I'm just saying, you know, I keep harping back to, you know, if it's predictable, it's preventable. Are handlers allowed to be alone with students?
Well, the
In other
therapy
words,
dog.
okay, you've got the therapy dog and the handler. Does the school personnel need to be in the classroom with the handler, or can the handler and the students be alone without a staff member from the school?
I mean, we don't typically allow that, but I'm trying to think like,
Well, it says the therapy dog, which would include the handler, shall only be allowed in areas authorized by the building principal.
Right.
So I don't know that,
Teacher wants to go step out of the classroom while the handler's there. They're in an authorized position or an authorized place to be, but they do not have any student.
I just think you'd have to put that in the plan that is.
That's gotta be in the plan, that the handler is not allowed to be.
We don't typically I mean, the reason I pondered that question is because we have subs that are obviously alone with kids because they're guest teachers
But they are part and parcel and owned by you guys as a sub. Okay? And you as the principal and so forth can go in and supervise them.
Right, 100%. My point was I was just trying to think through that, like we leave them alone, but we don't typically live volunteers. But we do have scenarios where volunteers are in the hallway that are visual to everybody. Teachers in the classroom, and we have, kids step out and working and they're in the hallway situation. So I was just trying to process through that in my brain. I would just think it's one of the pieces that's in the plan.
Okay.
So it's 5 minutes to 7. Just stating the time.
Why don't we put everything out for public input, and then we can fine tune it at a later date.
We just haven't, we would have to send it out without the opt-in out form, we haven't looked at that yet.
where is that form?
I added it in there, it's in our green sheet, but it's also in the, drive.
It's this one, right, the student permission form, is that what you're talking about?
Oh no, that's one that she did, one might be better. No, this is exposure to animals, I guess we could use this one, I did one, I just pulled one specific to a school therapy dog, so
Oh,
I don't, we
Which
might wanna use.
one is it up there?
It's, I linked it in the policy, sorry, the actual policy. I didn't put it up
Oh,
here yet.
okay, in
Okay,
2585.
Yeah. It's school therapy dog parent permission form.
Yeah, I just, and maybe we just use the same for that, but I don't know, I just pulled from other districts and it's not written well, so we'd have to, they name the dog, so it's like, oh, Mosey is whatever, so. So I was like, he, she, I don't know. You could pull, yeah. And that would be the dog's name. But it looks like, Rosanna, if we do this, then all we have to do is put the survey together and then send it out.
I think so.
And it'll be open for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
on to the next thing on the green list.
Do we wanna add that therapy dog has received and is up to date on all necessary vaccinations and credentials, or I don't know what we called it, but certifications?
Certifications, yeah. It's an odd sentence where they, therapy dogs provide many benefits, period. Do we need the, if you would like, return this letter, cause then right above the actual yes, no, we say complete this form, sign and return it to your student's teacher. Under sincerely, so it's saying it twice.
So it's,
It's just simple.
That's the entirety of it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's short and sweet. So student name, teacher, and then yes or no. And then you'd have to fill this out annually, cause it's per year.
So will this be a standard form that goes to like every parent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll probably be at the beginning of the school year, like the initial packet that goes out, and so they have to sign it one way
Gotcha.
or the other, and if we don't hear from them, the assumption would be no. Cause we said yes or no, like,
Yep.
and then you'd be calling and,
Seems like just built into the policy, there's enough sort of friction to prevent anyone from walking in with a dog. Not like there's actual stuff they have to do.
yeah, everyone has to check in at the office. Again, they have to run their ID. And it doesn't matter, like, I could be sitting at Twin and I know Jacqueline, but our protocol has been, it doesn't matter, you continue to it's just a standard, so that you're in the habit of, it's not like, oh yeah, I've seen this mom here 20 times, you know, it's just,
Right.
it doesn't matter.
okay, so, changed the if you would like to, you must sign and return this letter instructing whether your child is allowed to interact with the therapy dog, or if your child is not allowed to interact with it, or if.
I think we're missing the dog on after therapy.
Oh,
Yep.
you're right.
Interact with the therapy.
Therapy. Slows her out.
Feels a little yogish.
Well, and I don't want the negative portion to be like, you know, I don't want it to be negative because I don't really care.
When your child's allowed to interact with the therapy
just
dog,
sounds negative.
your child not to be.
Like if you want to be the one that says no, yeah, that's not cool.
Check this box indicating you told Tommy the bad news.
Right? But it also says, please feel free to contact the district office, and I think it should be the building.
Yeah.
School office.
Is that what we call it? Okay. Or please contact. probably just please contact the school. There we go.
Sweet, short and sweet.
Document that people might actually read.
That's the goal.
Okay.
So we will get this cleaned up to send out for input
So therapy dog is.
moving forward.
Jake's gonna get this and go,
And then
man, they
we can
missed
look at
everything.
your other policy too, to see if there is anything we wanna add based on some of the feedback. Okay, you wanna
Okay.
stop recording?
Yes, please.